You're watching our continuing coverage here from the CNBC-TV18 Budget Headquarters. I'm Shireen Bhan. We're in conversation with the budget architects. Right here with me in the studio, Revenue Secretary Sanjay Malhotra and the Chief Economic Advisor Anantha Nageswaran. Gentlemen, appreciate you joining us. And once again, congratulations on a budget that has been very well received. Revenue Secretary, let me start by asking you, and I think this is something that the Economic Survey had sort of hinted at yesterday, and it's of course been taken forward in the budget. Again, as far as tax collections are concerned, buoyancy is concerned, both in the words of the Finance Secretary, conservative and hoping to do better or replicate the kind of gains that you saw in this year. How confident do you feel on that front?
Yeah, we have had good revenues. You are aware, both direct taxes and GST. The gross collections are growing at 24% this year, as I speak. Next year, we have, in line with the growth in GDP, 10.5% is what the budget document aims at. And I think realistically speaking, 10.5% is a good figure even for the revenues to grow at. And so we are pretty confident that we should be able to meet those targets.
On GST, and I want to address that because overnight we saw the GST number coming in now, 1.56 lakh crores. What will be the run rate that you expect from here on? The expectation was 1.5, 1.51. Is this likely to be now the run rate that we should look forward to?
Yeah, I mean, this new base has now been set. 1.5 lakh is the average now. In fact, as we, from the numbers that we gave last evening, we got an increase of about 1,600 crore rupees. So it's 157.5 and not, 156 that we gave out, earlier. So, but that becomes the new base. And we do hope, that we should be able to continue with the growth as the economy increases, as there is growth in economy. So in line with that, this should also increase.
Let me address the issue of the change that's come in on personal income tax. I think it was an acknowledgement on the part of the government that the changes that had been introduced to try and get people to move to the new tax regime, it didn't work. And sweeteners needed to be put on the table, and which is why the finance ministers announced these new 5 tax slabs. But do you feel confident that you will get people to shift? You said that there is no reason for lethargy any longer and people should move. But you still have the option of continuing with the old or switching to the new. Do you believe this time around people will switch?
Yeah, I think the benefits that have been given in this new scheme. Firstly, this is a continuation of our move towards no exemptions. So it's not only, in personal income tax. You are aware, even in the corporate taxation, we have a regime of without exemption, taxation without exemption at 22% vis-a-vis 30% with exemptions. And over there also, now 61% of the tax, corporate tax is actually coming from there. So similarly, even on customs, of course, we did not mention it, but this is again something, for viewers, for everyone to know, is that we are moving away from exemptions even in customs, and so some 32 items we have reviewed. We had announced it earlier that every 2 years we would be doing a review of exemptions. So in line with our thought process of going away from exemptions, even in customs, we have now not continuing, 32 exemptions. Similarly, in the personal income tax regime, while we have not tinkered with the old scheme, whatever benefits are to be given have been linked only to the new tax regime. So one is rebate, an increased rebate of 7 lakh, which becomes equivalent to, a 2 lakh investment, 5 lakh plus 2 lakh investment in the old tax regime. Slabs with lesser taxation starting from 3 lakh vis-a-vis 2.5 lakh in the old scheme. And then, even the surcharge, of course, numbers will be very small. But for the salaried classes and the pensioners, including the family pensioners, there is an additional 50,000 standard deduction. So with all these things put together, I'm pretty confident that majority of our taxpayers in the personal income taxation regime should now be opting for the new regime.
So you said that this is now the new default tax regime. Then why continue with the old one?
We don't want to make the change too abrupt. And so that's why, it's a gradual shift.
Okay.
People who prefer to be in the old scheme, there are some exemptions. Let them continue to have those exemptions as long as they feel that the old scheme works better for them. So we don't want to make it less attractive, but we want to make the new scheme more attractive and let them, come on their own rather than force them to join the new scheme.
Okay, there's lots of questions that I have on insurance. I'm going to get to that in just a second. But CA, let me address this issue of what's happened on the personal income tax side. And if the Revenue Secretary's confidence bears out and more people move to the new income tax scheme, what will it mean in terms of consumption and the kind of consumption boost that we can expect?
Look, I mean, most of the youngsters who haven't had historical deductions to worry about or think about, they will naturally feel it is safer and simpler to work with the new structure. What it does to consumption, naturally the entire thrust of the tax package announced in the budget today is about putting more money in the hands of people, whether it is retired people, old age, elderly people, senior citizens or the youngsters. So I think it will, on the margin, it is going to be positive for consumption growth.
It'll be positive for consumption. On the insurance questions, and as I said, I've got a plethora of questions that have come in. Is the 5 lakh rupee threshold for premium paid in 1 year or over the term of the policy? That's question number 1.
Yeah, so it's 1 year. So every year, you can contribute 5 lakh rupees towards one or more than one policy. And this is in addition to the 2.5 lakh rupees limit that you already have in ULIP. So overall, insurance basket, you can buy policies worth 7.5 lakh rupees year on year on. Every year you can pay that premium. So it's not over the life term. This limit is not over the lifetime of a policy, but this is an annual limit.
It's an annual limit. And, again on this aggregation aspect, is the threshold per policy or aggregate of all policies?
Aggregate of all policies.
Aggregate of all
together
policies.
For an year. For a year, but not over the term of the policy.
Okay, so aggregate of all policies for a year, not over the term of the policy. And will only proceeds from premium above 5 lakh rupees be taxed proportionately, or if a person crosses the threshold, 100% of the proceeds will be taxed?
That's right. I mean, if it crosses 5 lakh rupees, then that particular policy gets taxed.
Okay.
So he can always choose, to divide his policy and keep the premium, the 5 lakh premium, the policies with premium up to 5 lakh separate. If he wants to buy, still wants to buy a policy more than 5 lakh, that 1 lakh rupee policy can be different. So that way, he can avoid taxation on premiums, policies with premiums up to 5 lakh rupees.
The government's rationale for bringing this change in is to stop the abuse, so to speak. What we saw today in the market was a massive disruption. All insurance companies sold off on the back of this. One is, of course, the concern on what this means. HDFC Life, for instance, on our channel seemed to suggest that this could have an impact of 10 to 12% on the top line and 5% on the bottom line of the company specifically. The other concern that was raised by many tax experts is that since you are talking about moving away from an exemption era to a no exemption era, what will it mean as far as the insurance sector is concerned?
So as I mentioned, insofar as two things I would like to clarify. One, old policies, there is no change. So if you were even having, policies with premium more than 5 lakh rupees, that doesn't, change. That doesn't, I mean, the taxation doesn't change on that. The second thing is term insurance. There is no taxation on the sum assured received by a dependent from term insurance. Insofar as, the overall insurance sector is concerned, let me give you a statistic. LIC has 16 crore policyholders. Of the 16 crore policyholders with premium, aggregate premium, annual premium, more than 5 lakh is about 1.97 lakh only, which is 1.2 in 1,000, 0.12%. It is not even, 1%.
It's 1/8 or 1.
So it's very, very, very small. And so, the impact, I don't think even on the top line should be, as high. I think it's an overreaction. But That's how it is, and we'll find out.
Well, thank you very much for those clarifications. I think that that adds great clarity to the confusion that people had with respect to this. But see, you said that this budget does something for putting more money or more disposable income in the hands of the consumers. One of the quibbles, of course, has come in specifically on the rural budget side, on items like the NREGS, where the RE to B is lower. Now, I understand that it is a demand-driven scheme, and hence, if more money is needed, more money will be allocated. But what does that tell us? Does that tell us that rural economy is actually in a better position today, and hence we're not seeing people opt for the NREGS?
No, for example, last year in the current financial year, 22-23, the initial budgeted amount was lower than the previous year's actual, but then when the demand came, it was met. So the lower allocation reflects the government's confidence. As the survey stated, the recovery is complete and we are looking ahead to a steady medium-term growth, and therefore there will be opportunities for reverse migration to happen towards urban cities and for consumers to demand less of NREGA compensation. But if you look at the allocation to projects like Jal Jeevan Mission and Prime Minister Awas Yojana, there are a very clear step up in the allocation. So this project, this particular scheme, because it is demand driven, and the expectation from the government side is that there is going to be more employment opportunities and there will be less demand, but should situation change and there is greater demand, it will be met. So it doesn't signal a lesser of a priority or attention to rural unemployment problem. That's not the messaging here.
That's not the message that is being sent out. But, I want to, Mr. Somanathan here said he feels confident that you will be able to get closer to that band that you laid out of 6 to 6.8%. Do you believe that it's likely to be at the higher end?
Look, at this point it is too premature. We are not even done with the current financial year, and we all understand that there is so much of global uncertainties. So at this point I wouldn't like to speculate on whether we are going to be at the upper end of the band or lower end of the band. I will stick to my baseline.
Revenue Secretary and Chief Economic Advisor Anantha Nageswaran, many thanks. We hope that you get a little bit of rest today. But of course I know that you're also on the assembly line of interviews. But thank you very much. We appreciate your time. And thank you very much for the clarifications that you've shared with us here this evening. The budget architects here at the CNBC-TV18 budget headquarters. We will take a break, but don't go anywhere because we'll be back with the chiefs of the CBDT and the CBIC right after this short break.
Thank you. Thank you.
Co-present